All right, so to get started with Inventor Pro, we're going to need to go over sketching. So it'll open on the 3D model tab, and you can go ahead and click over to the sketch tab because everything we're going to do in this video really only has to deal with these sketching tools. So right now we're seeing directly at the front view, and as you can see from our axes, we're in the XY plane is what we're looking at right here. So as we go to start, we're going to open up the origin folder and go to the XY plane, which we can see when we click on that. And we're going to go ahead and start a 2D sketch. Now, when we do that, the center point or the origin, the main point here is visible. Now, it is best practice to always start from this point so that your objects are anchored or have a location in space. If you don't do that, they can never become fully constrained. Um, you are able to, if you need to, for whatever reason, you could draw a shape out in this open space and then dimension it to the center point. That would also define it in space so that it will be fully constrained by the time you're done. So all of our sketch tools are lined up. Our main create ones are the ones we're going to focus on. But the other area that we're going to focus on is a little bit in modify. You'll see more of these as we get to them in the various other activities. And constrain. So the main goal of this is to be able to draw shapes and using dimensions or actual constraints, define those so that they are fully defined. Now, this software does have a color system. You will see black lines are fully constrained and blue lines or shapes are not fully constrained yet. And like it says now, with nothing created yet, it does say fully constrained down here. Um, when there are issues that are undefined or unconstrained, they will show up as one dimension needed, two dimensions needed, that sort of stuff. And you don't always have to fix them with a dimension. A constraint would also fix it as well. So to get started, all of these tools that have arrows under them have different types of tools you can use. So if I click on line, you can see I can do curved lines in a couple of different ways, as well as regular straight lines. Circles have a couple different ways, plus an ellipse, which is an oval type shape. Arcs have three main ways you can create them. We'll use all three of those. Rectangles have a variety of different types, including several, like four different ways to create rectangles. In addition, you have four ways to create slots, a curved slot, and then a polygon option. So there's a lot of different tools under this one that can help you do things. We can also use the fillet tool to round corners and the chamfer tool to cut corners off. And then again, various move, copy, rotate, trim, extend, split, and various things. Offset will be used in the first tutorial, so we'll leave that for there. But that is a very, very useful tool as well. We have patterning tools. Most of the time, I would tell you not to use patterning in a sketch. They're much easier to manipulate and work with when your patterns are a feature. Again, you'll go over that in the first sketch. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start with the regular rectangle, the regular 2-point rectangle. I'm going to go ahead and come down to the center point. I'm going to click and release, and I'm going to pull out. Now, you do want to use these type in size boxes. Okay, so I'm going to type a 6 to go to 6 inches. I'm going to push tab and then switch over and add 4 for the 4-inch ones. And then I'm going to zoom out a little bit so that I can see the whole box. Now, the nice part is, just so that we're clear, is I entered those measurements. It automatically dimensions them. That's fine. There are some times, especially with lines and non-vertical or horizontal, but angled lines of other kinds, where it's really your only time where you can define certain sizes. So I would just get into the habit of, if it's a length that you know, go ahead and define it as you type it in. The other thing it does, as you can see, is you do maintain the rectangle tool, by the way, until you hit escape, and you can move various things. So I'm going to move these dimensions just out away from the shape a little bit. But if I click it again, or if I highlight all of it again, you can see it added relationships. So like there's a horizontal relationship here, a perpendicular relationship here, and then parallel relationships between the top and bottom lines and the left and right lines. So between all of those things, this shape is fully constrained, or if you're used to SolidWorks terms, fully defined, right? That's why the lines are black. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to add some other things too. So if I wanted to add a circle, the circle works like this. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select the center of the circle, and then I'm going to pull this out. And as you can see by the dotted line, it's asking for the diameter, or from side to side through the center. I'm going to go ahead and type 3 in and press enter. And again, because I put it on a known location and defined the diameter, this is also fully constrained. Push escape. As you can see though, the two shapes overlap, and what we like are continuous profiles. So if what I needed was a profile that looked like a rectangle with a circular part sticking out of the bottom left-hand corner, this is what I would create. And then I would use my trim tool to trim away the parts I don't need, such as this part right here, and that part right there. Now you can see by doing that, some of my rectangular lines went back to being blue. Now we're going to use, I'm going to hit escape real quick, and we're going to use our constraints to go ahead and constrain those. So I'm going to click the vertical constraint, and I'm going to add a vertical constraint from the center of the circle. Oh, sorry, my thing missed. From the center of the circle, yeah, try again. Center of the circle and this endpoint right here, to vertically constrain those. You see this line went black. I believe the other one on the other side did too. I'm going to then pick the horizontal one and go from the center of the circle to this endpoint here. And now those are horizontally constrained. We're back to a fully constrained shape. That's essentially what got lost when I trimmed away the material that wasn't needed. All right, so that gives me that circular shape. Now let me zoom back out a little bit so we have a little bit more space. Lost my cursor there for a second. There we go. By the way I'm zooming in and out very easily is by using the scroll wheel on the mouse. So you can experiment with that to go ahead and do it. And there's a little button underneath so you can push it in and kind of pan your view around, which is really helpful as you're creating these various things. So I am going to now go ahead and use the line tool to create some shapes. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my line tool, and I'm going to click here and draw this way. And as you can see, I have a line length here, which I can type in as 4 inches, which that'll make a 4-inch line. And that's one of the times where when you have an angled line, if you click this line afterwards, it really wants to dimension only in the vertical and horizontal distance. So yeah, so if I click this, and if I was to click this line again, see how it only wants to go vertical and horizontal? That is true regardless of whether you've defined a length for the line. So if you need a length on an angled line, your time to do it is when you draw it. You have to create a dimension. I can always come back here, double click on it, and change it to like 3.5, which would give me 3.5 inches and make it shorter. I'm going to go ahead and leave it at 3.5 right there. I'm also, because this is blue and an angled line, I'm going to grab my dimension tool, and I'm going to go from here to there, go in between them. You'll see I could do this dimension or I could do this one. And I'm going to go ahead and add a 135 dimension there, which will change the angle slightly, but now it is set like this. Okay. Now the next thing I'm going to draw, I'm only going to use constraints to fully constrain it. I'm going to go ahead and draw the line again, but I'm going to draw an angled line off the top corner, just down like this, and I'm going to click with no dimensions, no constraints whatsoever. And I'm very quickly going to constrain this line. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click the parallel one, and I'm going to make this line and this line parallel. The second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click the equals one. So notice the difference. They're both two lines, but they're in different angles. And go equal from here to there. And again, I am fully constrained with no dimensions on this line. It is just the parallel, so it has the same angle, and equal, which makes it have the same length. Okay, Only the equal dimension would have not have done that because it would have made the line the same 3.5 inch length, but it would not have made it the same angle. Now, as a cool little trick, the reason why you might want to use constraints instead of dimensioning that other line is now this line drives both sizes. So if I was to come back and hit escape, double click on this one and change it to 4.25, you'll notice both lines get longer. So this is the way we're going to go ahead and leave it for our option or our piece here. I'm going to mess with a couple of arcs just so we can see how those work. Under the arc, the first one I'm going to do is the center point arc because this is one of the more common ones. So I'm going to go ahead and draw an arc with the center point as the midpoint of this line. So again, you'll see it turns green when I get on a midpoint. I'm going to go from the end point here all the way up at 90 degrees, which I can type in, and that fully defines this arc. You'll see that basically what it did was it created a construction line here. So this is a line for construction. As you can see in the format area, it's right here. Okay, that's a construction line. And it created it as 90 degrees. It defined the center as the midpoint of this upper arc, and that's how I created it. So anytime you know the center and where something should start or end, or where something should start and the angle necessary, go ahead and use the center point arc. This is really useful. You could also have overdrawn this by just selecting a point and then maybe used a different line or something to trim it back where it needs to be. As well, we have a 3-point arc, which I'm going to use off of here. So there's my start point, here's my end point, and then here's my middle point, okay, where I can bend this arc as much as I want to. Now to define my arc, I'm going to go ahead and I am going to take this point, pick the reference first. So I'm going to pick constraint first. I'm going to pick a vertical constraint, and I'm going to vertically constrain this point over the endpoint there. So you can see that goes ahead and lines that up. I'm then going to use dimension to constrain this point vertically above that. You can see I clicked two different things at 2.5 inches. Now it still tells me I have a dimension missing, and this is still blue because I haven't defined a radius. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that to define the radius, and I'm going to define it as 3. And you notice that changes. So this is what I end up with as my angle. Now the last arc is a tangent arc. And what that means is I have a line going and I want it to just smoothly transition off that line. So I'm going to pick my line and then I'm going to start to make my curve. So I'm going to go ahead and make something like this. I am going to horizontally restrain the center and the end point. And then I'm going to dimension my arc as a radius of 2. And that makes it fully constrained, okay? Because it knows where the end point is because it has to stay vertical with this, and having the line be tangent with that, this is the only option for that. So that's why I get those items. So I also have a variety of things I could do right now. Just to kind of show you what they look like, I can click my fillet tool. I can set my fillet radius as 0.5 or half an inch. Oh, sorry, I hit enter and it makes it go away. So 0.5. And then I'm going to click this. I'm going to click this object and that object, and it's going to put a half inch, just to zoom in, a half inch curve between them. Okay. And I'm going to do the same thing up here. So this arc and that, so that those curve in. And when I'm done, I can go ahead and apply those. But that's what a sketch fillet does. I'm not really going to use the chamfer, but the chamfer works just the same way. You'll have some settings and you'll be able to click a corner and have that happen. So what I would like you to do as we are wrapping this up is the first thing to do is to save your work. So if you click the little disk icon up here that is save, or if you go to file and save, with the sketch open, it won't let you save. So we'll go ahead and click finish. I don't know why it zoomed in there, but it did. If I actually click this button here, which is the little zoom icon with the piece of paper, it'll zoom to show me my entire sketch. I'm going to go ahead and at this point click save. And I made it an inventor training foil where I saved all of these. So I'm going to save this over a first try. You would name yours, sketch tools or intro or something like that. And I'm going to save it. I have to overwrite it, but that is how you save. And I would suggest maybe making a inventor tutorials folder in your own location where you save stuff, so you can save this. We want to make sure all these are showing. Just to make sure you know how to do this, if you right click on your sketch, the fourth option in the list is edit sketch. So this is how you can come in, and if you've gotten out of the sketch, you can get back into it. And I can do stuff like I can click on a dimension, and it won't let me move the words to a place where it'd be easier to read, but I could move that around. I can do whatever I need to do. So with this open, I'd like you to right click up here where it says sketchtools.ipt and go down to iProperties. Okay. And one of the things that it will do is if you click, which one did I want you to click? Actually, project. Go ahead and leave it as project. We can move this around so that it's in the view. But the things I want to see is I want to make sure you have this project one that's showing. This is showing that you're the one that created it. I can see that it is fully constrained, which is why I wanted you to open the drawing back up. And I want to be able to see all the shapes and dimensions. Nothing is hidden. Okay? Nothing is hidden at all. And by the fact that it's fully constrained, only the dimensions that I've showed you to put on are on there. No extra dimensions. I know that you used all the correct constraints as well. So this is what I want a screenshot of. If you decide to crop it a little bit, that's fine. But again, I need to make sure that I see the project properties. I want to see the whole sketch so I can read the numbers. And I want to see it fully constrained. And this is a screenshot that you will paste on the document to turn in to get credit for this assignment.